Call to order the City Council meeting for November 18th. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have the roll, please.
Vaughn.
Here.
Sullivan.
Present.
Shower. Kenny.
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
Clistic.
Present.
Belzak.
Here.
6 present and 1 absent.
We have a quorum. It takes us to questions, comments, and announcements of a general nature. Does anyone in the audience have any comments that they'd like to make that do not deal necessarily with our agenda today? If none, we'll move to the approval of minutes. First, we have the minutes of October 29, 2019. That was our goal-setting session. Do I have a motion to approve? Alderwoman Sullivan, seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Questions or comments? If none, the roll.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Clistic.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
Those meeting minutes have been approved. That takes us to the November 4th, 2019 City Council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Alderman Belzak, second by Alderman Kenny. Any questions or comments or changes? If none, the roll.
Belzak.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Clistic.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
It takes us to receiving of communications. Do any of the aldermen have communications for the council? Alderman Kenny.
Mayor, I do have a communication from former Alderman Tina Belke, resident in the 3rd Ward by me. I've got some questions, but I'm going to save them for later on when we get to discussion on new business.
Okay. Anyone else? If none, that takes us to the mayor's report. Prior to getting into the mayor's report, I will note that our December 2nd, Monday, December 2nd City Council meeting will be canceled. We will not hold a December meeting until the December 16th meeting. The Thanksgiving holiday is that Thursday, and then the offices are also closed Friday. And to have a meeting that night would be putting people in a rush to get information out. So we're going to cancel that meeting. So please mark your calendars accordingly. As most of you know, one of our concerns is economic development within the city of Darien. And in the past, Claire used to invite new businesses to our city council meeting to introduce them. It's my objective to not just invite new businesses, but to invite present businesses and present organizations in the community to provide them with a little exposure. The first group we're going to hear from tonight, as many of you know, I attended the Kingswood Academy gala and fundraiser at Seven Bridges. I was invited there by Tammy Karam, and Tammy is here tonight. I invited her to come to give a talk a little bit about Kingswood as one of our local private schools, and to talk a little bit about the merits of that school. Tammy?
Thank you. First, I'm a business person. I'm going to hand out cards for you guys. Thank you, Mayor and Aldermen and women. It's an honor to be here. It was an honor to have Mayor represent the city of Darien at our annual gala. The gala is actually 24 years going, where school has been here for 23 years. We've been at our current facility with a lease agreement with the city of Darien that we've been super happy with for over a decade now. And we're very grateful for the building. We're right there on Plainfield Road and Kingery Highway. A lot of residents of the city of Darien don't always know about us. So it was a great honor that the mayor gave us the opportunity. Many people think that we're just a daycare center. I actually came across them, I thought we were a karate studio. So we are none of those. We actually start as a Montessori preschool at the age of 3 through 5. And we have full day and half day offerings for our families at 3 and 5 days also. And then what that feeds into is what we're really well known for in our community. So we're actually an independent Catholic, classically based curriculum school. And it sounds a lot of fancy words, and really it's not fancy. It's simplicity is kind of what we thrive on. So we do classical curriculum, which means that we have no technology. There's no one-to-one at our school. We go back to the roots of kind of how our forefathers were educated. We go back to the writing, the reading, the arithmetic, the history. I have four children. Two of our children are currently at Kingswood right now. And I love it. My son, when he's second grade now, when he was in first grade and began history, they started at the beginning with Mesopotamia. And that's what they do. They start and they do the whole education through. Our students learn Spanish and Latin starting in kindergarten. Actually, our preschoolers do get it a little bit. Our 8th grade students come in during lunchtime to read children's books in Spanish to them. Our Spanish classes are not total immersion, but our teachers, there's no English spoken in the Spanish classes, so it's straight Spanish, and then they do Latin. And what I love about our Latin is if you come into our school, you'll hear our students say salve, which is hello in Latin, or vale, which is goodbye. Our students are taught to greet one another in the hallways. That's a big part. So not only are we a classical base, which is a rigorous education that has produced a lot of great academics. Last year during our testing, all of our classes tested at least 1 grade above. Many of our students tested 2 and 3 grades above level. But what we're most proud of is the virtuous foundations that we give our students. We highlight a virtue each month. Right now on our marquee, if you drive past, it's fortitude. Trying to, when you're in those hard times, getting through those hard times. But we teach them the manners. So, kids will be kids, and we have problems like any other school, but it's how we deal with it. We try to encourage them in their character and how they behave. So greeting one another with kindness, being respectful. A lot of times when we have new students transfer in, often we get junior high students transferring in, parents are looking for something a little bit different, and they're hitting that critical junior high age. And we'll have students say, it's really quiet in here. and we're like, yes, that's exactly how it's meant to be. Our kids know when they're outside and it's rambunctious, and we still have dodgeball, which I think in a lot of schools is actually banned. But our kids can get very loud when they're allowed to get loud, but they know it's respect and when they are supposed to be quiet. But we have a rich tradition. A lot of our students go on to high school, to many of our different high schools. And what we love about being here in Darien, I'm not from Darien, and my husband and I have small businesses, and we haven't been in Darien, though the mayor is trying to convince us that maybe we should look in Darien too, we bring everybody in from different communities. So we have families that come all the way from Aurora, Plainfield, Naperville, Joliet. We have families from Oak Park. We have families from Hinsdale, Western Springs, Clarendon Hills, Downers Grove. And then we have a few families from right here in Darien, and we have 2 of our teachers. One of our teachers has been on staff for 19 years that lives right here in Darien also. And actually, Alderman Kenny knows some of our teachers that have been stranded in cars locked before, who he's helped out. So it's great that we bring everybody in here, and we actually hosted a connoisseur night last year, and local businesses came and provided their foods or their services that our students and our families got to come around and see. And we really try to build that sense of community and showing that the families that do come in, that there's so much to offer here in the city of Darien. And we're so grateful for it. I'm impressed with everything that you guys have going in Darien. I will say that I was naive to Darien until my kids attended Kingswood, and now I'm becoming much more and more familiar with the businesses and what's to offer. And it's just been a real pleasure for us. And Kingswood is honored to be in Darien, and we hope to continue this for many decades to come. As our students and our student body grows, we hope to fill the facility, but to remain right here in Darien. So are there any questions about our school or anything?
Tammy and her husband own several humidor.
You might smell it off you right now.
Humidor shops. If
Yes.
you've ever been over by Standard Market on Ogden Avenue, that humidor shop was one of theirs, and they actually have. I asked the question of her husband, do people really come in and smoke cigars there? And they actually have parties where people bring in food. They bring in food.
Yeah.
There's the lunch group that'll come in with their PCs and such. So I honestly did tell her, I looked at her husband, I said, we have a lot of vacancy in Darien. Maybe you want to consider a humidor shop in Darien. But that wasn't my reason for having her come in. I wanted her, when I went to the gala, I was so impressed by the children And I was so impressed by the parents that I met that I wanted her to be able to have an opportunity to share that with you and with the people on television tonight.
Well,
So
we
thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Kingswood is really grateful. And did you have a question?
Maybe I missed it. How many students do you have?
So we are currently on a lower end. We're about 75 right now.
Okay.
So we do a 10-to-1 ratio. So we really look for a 10-to-1 ratio on our students. Some of the classes will hit 13 or so. Our graduating class last year, our 8th grade graduating class was 13, and I have to brag about them. They all made state science fair. Again, our rigorous academics really show through. And most of our kids go on to Nazareth, Fenwick, Willows, and Northridge up north, and then Chesterton, that's a local school now in Lisle. It used to be in Downers. A lot of them are going to there. Then they go on to Stanford, the Notre Dame. They've been to the Air Force and Naval Academies. So they've all found some really great success. Actually, two of our graduates this last year, one was a perfect on the ACT, and the other was just 1 point short.
Wow.
Yeah, so really great things. But yeah, it's just been a great fit for us here in Darien. And again, we have some of our teachers that have, been here and, grown up in this area. It's great to see them be able to work here in Darien.
Did I hear you correctly? No technology?
We have no technology. We're really proud of it. I mean, it's in this day and age, everybody's like, I think that you push that STEM, and I always like to say we have no technology, and our 8th graders all made state science fair. Again, we go back to, we do cursive in 2nd grade, and we've never not had cursive. Our kids have to learn how to spell and grammar because there is no spell check, there is no grammar check. And that's really what sets our children apart when they go on, especially to high school. We get references from high school teachers that you can always tell the Kingswood students because they have been forced to. So once they do get on the computers, it's a whiz for them. We have a computer lab. As my husband would say, it's probably like very outdated. But we really teach keyboarding skills because we know the importance. I have a daughter in college also, and she'll tell you that keyboarding skills are the most important because, when it's 11:50 and you got to finish that 10-page paper, you better be able to crank it out really fast. Where we feel like the technology changes so often, our students really don't have to have it. We teach the fundamentals of classical curriculum is that we're not teaching answers, we're teaching students how to find the answer. We're block schedule, so our children have over an hour 15 minutes to delve into a subject. So our junior high, when they set a lab up for science, they get to get through that lab. It's not a cleanup. Half the time, a lot of times in classrooms, it's set up and clean up. Our students have that full amount of time to really delve into the subjects, and our teachers have more time to actually spend on the subjects themselves too, which makes a huge difference.
Anything else for Tammy? Tammy, thank you very much.
And I apologize, I have to leave. I do actually have a cigar event to go to right now, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And also, we have an open house. It's a ways away, January 31st, and it's an all-school open house for our families and outside. It's breakfast, and so we will be sending invitations out, but we will love for all of you to attend and get a chance to see our school in action. It's kind of the end of our week for a special week that week, and we will have a paper airplane contest amongst all the students also. To see who can build the most aerodynamic paper airplane. So we'd love for you guys to join us.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to our next presentation. I put down Frugal Muse with Paul Galloway. I've met with Paul several times. I was over there last week. Paul told me he might not be here tonight because he's working the store. And I don't think he can get his wife. If his wife could have come in to spell him tonight, he would have been here. But instead, we have the owner of the Wild Orchid Salon, Gail Sablick. Gail, and she's with Jim Little from the Darien Woodridge Fire Department and Chris Bockard. So if you guys like to come forward, I'd like to have Gail talk a little bit about Wild Orchid, and then I think Jim's going to talk a little bit about the event that we're going to have on December 4th. Gail?
Okay. Thank you for inviting me. My name's Gail Sablick. I'm owner of Wild Orchid Salon. We're a full-service Aveda concept salon located at Chestnut Court, which is 75th and Lamont Road. Wild Orchid's continuous mission is to create a friendly yet trendy atmosphere where you can come and be pampered while taking a pause from the outside world. We understand the importance of extraordinary service while helping you look and feel your absolute best. We offer an open, non-competitive environment so you can always enjoy working with talented service providers of your choice. As a team, we are constantly advancing our learning opportunities, which allow us to bring the latest techniques and designs back to you in all aspects of hair design, hair color, skin and body repair, and makeup services. Regardless of the service you have chosen to enjoy, you can take comfort in knowing our staff is well-knowledged. We consider each client as an individual with his or her own needs and desires. We strive to fulfill these needs and desires of our clients. Experience, dedicated, and professionalism is what you get with our talented stylists. Your appearance and well-being is our highest priority. Besides being a full-service Aveda salon, we also specialize in hair pieces and wigs. We have private suites in our salon with friendly, knowledgeable consultants, whether you're going through chemotherapy, have alopecia, female pattern baldness, burns, accidents, surgery scars, we can help you with a solution. At Wild Orchid Salon, we provide complimentary consultations. Whether your hair loss is permanent or temporary, we have a solution for your needs. We specialize in all types of wigs, being human synthetic blends, and synthetic. We consider our client's budget, lifestyle, and daily concerns with the suggestion of a solution for your needs. Our goal is to make our clients feel and look themselves. Book your appointment at Wild Orchid Salon for all your hair and hair replacement needs. Remember, the holidays will be here before you know it. Stop in and check out our holiday gift assortment. We also have a generous discount for first-time clients, which is 25% off your first service when you mention the booking. The phone number at Wild Orchid is 630-910-1101. And I'm also here to talk about Chestnut Court's Holidays event. It's called the Sugar Plum Shindig. It's going to be Wednesday, December 4th from 5 to 8 p.m. It'll be an exciting time for everyone. Come watch Santa arrive on a fire truck, visit with him, and don't forget to bring your Christmas list. We'll have live music, face painting for the kids, select retailers will have holiday treats and beverages. There will be many retail deals, and giveaways. Come see what we have in store for you. Remember, it's Wednesday, December 4th. For additional information, you can contact myself at Wild Orchid Salon, or you can go to Frugal Muse Bookstore in Chestnut Court. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is James Little. I'm representing Toy Express, and this evening I have with me is Chris Brokart and Kelly Wren. And the establishment of the beginning was in the 1980s. My mother, Naomi Little, and Kelly Wren's mom were basically collecting toys for an organization, but when they realized the toys were leaving the area, they felt that there was a need here that was not being met. So in the early 90s, they established Toy Express. And Toy Express in the beginning was very few fire departments were involved with it. I believe it was Hinsdale, Clarendon Hills, Westmont were the first three that were kind of involved in it at that point. At that time, they serviced 300 children locally in this area that had needs that were not being met because of financial difficulties and hardships at that time. Currently, today, we service over 2,000 children as of right now. So there is a big need within DuPage County that we service. So again, congratulations on your 50th year anniversary, and this year, Toy Express, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. So great milestones for both. When we look at where we put our assets at, it's with the volunteers. If it wasn't for the volunteers, Toy Express does not exist. That's why we thank the fire departments. That's why we thank the volunteers. We thank the village for allowing the police department to put a box that we can bring toys that we collect into the area. We are a 501c3 charity, which is basically staffed by volunteers, strictly volunteers. And without going into too many details, a lot of ours are by around 50 members that go into making Toy Express an operational success. This year we're going to be in the Chestnut Court. Starting December 1st is going to be our kickoff. We have a vacant building there that we've leased. And it's incredible when you give to the community what you get back. And that's what Toy Express is all about. The neat thing about Toy Express is that you have to show public need or public aids to be to take part in the program, to be receiving the toys, and that's how we kind of do it. But we set up a toy front. It's like almost like Toys R Us when you walk into the organization. The parents are able to come in and pick items off tables for their children. So we think that's more of a way that the parents get to kind of pick the toy instead of us bringing to them the toys to them. So it's incredible, the support. We thank you. We just want to get the word out there. As we move forward, there's always challenges out there. So anytime we can market what we do within the community, it's a great thing. And again, moving forward, there's always seems to be a need that's always progressing to be more and more. So again, if it doesn't happen with the volunteers, the fire departments, the police departments, and many other people that are involved in this, we don't exist. I just want to give you thank you for giving us the opportunity to stand up here tonight and let you know who we are.
Jim, I didn't know your mom was Naomi.
Yes,
She was an elected official in Darien.
she was alderwoman here since like late 80s.
Late 80s. Yeah, I knew Naomi well. In fact, when I ran for office the first time, she was the one who notarized all of my petitions.
You know, and it's funny because like myself, my mom and Kelly Wren's mom are both passed on now, and but they were so instrumental in the beginning, and you know, my mom's been gone like 15 years now, and it's still the heart continues on, and we have to step up now. Other people need to step up, and Chris Bokart, I can't say enough about him. I mean, he's really been the backbone of Kelly too. I mean, they've just
And you're going to be,
phenomenal.
just to let you guys know where they're going to be, there's an outlot there that currently has a dental office in about a quarter of the building, and the other portion of the building, which is all glass, is open, and that's where you're going to have the toys at.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
The old Blockbuster, right?
December
Can I-
1st.
So that's like, yeah, it's right by, it's on Lamont Road there. It used to be a mattress store,
Old
right?
Blockbuster building.
Right, old Blockbuster.
Yeah, Blockbuster.
What are your greatest needs? Are you looking for, do you have wish lists for toys? Are you looking for, would you prefer monetary donations? But obviously, you always could use volunteers, but what are your greatest needs?
We accept anything. I mean, but the toys, and if anybody goes out in the shop, they can buy an additional toy and donate it. That's great.
If I can jump
Yeah,
in
please,
here.
Chris.
Yeah.
If you have money, that's great. The problem we always run into,
Microphone. So people at home can hear you.
sorry, the problem we always run into is we start running out of toys. And the good thing is we get cash donations in, and quite often we're doing midnight runs to Walmart. Thank you, Walmart, for being open 24/7 during the holiday season. With a few of us volunteers, and we'll get 6 or 8 shopping carts and run through. And the nice thing is, if you're doing it at midnight, you're not getting a lot of other shoppers upset when you tie up a lane for a half hour. So money is always good. For toys, we distribute toys from infants up to 13. The sweet area for toys and donations is always the 4 to 9-year-old. We have so many dolls and trucks, and they're always great. And please, if people are listening or see this, bring more. But where we run short is, what do you get a 9 to 13-year-old boy or girl? Those are the ones that we always struggle to make sure we get things in for them. So if there is a specific need, if someone's going out shopping, look for the older kids. That's really where we always have shortages on toys.
Great, thank you for that insight.
Any other questions?
Are you open now, or when is it open?
December 1st.
Sorry. The first day I think we will open up the storefront is the first Tuesday in December. And is that the
December 3rd.
4th?
It's the third.
The third.
December
Third.
3rd,
Third.
okay.
Now,
Okay,
the
great.
storefront isn't open where people can just come in. What we do is we contact each and every family and give them, these are all the dates that we're open, and give them an appointment time where they can come in. So we'll run through about 12 to 16 families an hour. So it's not just like the doors are open and anyone can come in. We're very organized, being a 501c3. My background is accounting, I'm a CPA, so I kind of like that paperwork. So we try and keep it running efficiently, smoothly, and it's worked out well for the last 30 years.
But people can come by anytime and drop off, though. What's the drop off?
Or use the drop-off boxes instead?
How does
Yeah,
that
use
work?
the drop-off boxes at the fire departments.
Oh, okay.
At the storefront, we have the hours that we're there. We're open
Okay.
generally 4 days a week, sometimes 5.
Okay.
But since we're all volunteers, we can't staff it from 8 a.m. until 9 p.m. every night.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, guys, and good luck. And December 4th is the gala over at Chestnut Court, and we'll make sure that we get the word out about the toys and the donations. Thank you. I've asked I've asked April that every city council meeting, I'd like to have at least 2 businesses, current businesses in Darien, stop by. And again, we couldn't hear from Paul tonight from Frugal Muse, but we'll probably have him here sometime in the future. That takes us to our city clerk's report. Joanne?
Just one item. City offices will be closed on Thursday and Friday, November 28th and 29th in observance of Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much, Joanne. Brian, city administrators?
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, department head information and questions. The police department monthly report. Greg?
Just one
quick change to the monthly report on the crime summary. I was able to have one of the records clerks go back a little further in time, so now it's a 10-year look back versus just a 5-year look back. And just looking at numbers are kind of difficult sometimes, so threw a graph in there. So that's the only change.
Any questions for Chief Thomas? Mr. Gombeck, anything that you want to share with us?
No further comments at this point.
Thank you.
One quick question, and I asked you this before, Route 83 and Plainfield.
They're working maybe next year, next spring, for completion. It's, yeah, I know there's additional work that's going on Plainfield, and again, the best answer I got is it's up in the air, but spring is what they're looking at.
They've even been working on the snow, so I just...
You know, and I'd like to make something clear, because I had communications from people in Darien who wanted to know why the city of Darien was allowing that to continue like it was. And I responded that that is not the city of Darien's project. That is DuPage County.
DuPage County, IDOT, and it's really Pete's project in entirety, because that's where majority of the funding is coming from.
But I would just want to make that clear for anybody who might be watching this tonight. That's not the city's
Correct.
project. Our projects usually are done within a very short amount of time.
With the exception of 67th Street this year due to the weather, the unprecedented weather, of course.
All right, takes us to the treasurer's report. Michael, the warrant.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm requesting council's approval for warrant number 19, 2015, in the amount of $811,922.65 from the listed funds. Payroll for the period ended November 7th in the amount of $252,585.81 for a total to be approved of $1,064,508.46.
Motion to approve. Alderman Kenny, seconded by Alderman Belzak. Any questions or comments? If none, the roll.
Kenny?
Aye.
Belzak?
Aye.
Clistic?
Aye.
Vaughn?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Gustafson?
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
The report has been approved. It takes us to our monthly report. Michael?
Thank you again, Mayor. Yes, this is the revenue and expenditure report. This is as of October 31st, which is also halfway through our current fiscal year, so the numbers become a little bit more meaningful. One thing to point out in this report, as you recall, last month we approved a transfer from the general fund to the capital improvement for the extra $800,000 that we identified during the course of the audit. So that is reflected in these statements that you'll see. That being said, the general fund reflects year-to-date revenue of $9,471,890, expenditures of $6,977,509 for a current balance of $3,308,630. Water fund year-to-date revenue of $3,664,860, expenditures of $2,865,251 for a current balance of $2,436,855. Motor fuel tax fund year-to-date revenue of $342,330, expenditures of $216,797, current balance of $473,874. Water depreciation fund year-to-date revenue of $10,243, expenditures of $56,863. Current balance of $2,514,940, and the capital improvement fund year-to-date revenue of $267,509, expenditures of $4,174,433, current balance of $5,130,332.
Any questions from Mike on the monthly report? If none, then I think, Mike, you want to give us an update on the police pension fund?
Wanted to update the council. We did have our quarterly meeting with the Police Pension Fund on November the 7th. And in terms of the performance of the two investment managers, we have approximately $30 million combined between the two managers, one with about $16 million, one with about $14 million. The performance for the quarter was not too exciting. I actually pushed them on that a little bit, and I said, what's the result? What's caused that? And they said August. So, and August was a particularly bad month. Things did come back a little bit in September. October and November are looking outstanding as of right now, so hoping this next quarter things look a little bit better. But that being said, one of the investment advisors, the one with the $14 million, had a quarterly performance of only 0.6%. The other one was just over 1%. The year-to-date performance, but it's a calendar year-to-date, is approximately 12.5% for each one. But if you look back, the first quarter represents about over 8% of that 12%. And then the second quarter would also have the April month in there, which was in the last fiscal year. So for the current year, we're close, but it's not as exciting as the 12% year-to-date would sound. On a calendar year basis, everything you're hearing about the stock market is true. The markets are up 20% for the year, and we're doing well, but a lot of that occurred in January, which is our last fiscal year and the police pension fund's last fiscal year. So this quarter was sort of punk, but hoping for better next quarter. Also, I wanted to update the council a little bit. I guess it was last meeting, the council approved a resolution that we forwarded to the state legislature, encouraging them to adopt J.B. Pritzker's task force recommendation for the consolidation of the downstate, which means everything other than Chicago, police pension funds, police pension, and fire funds, although we don't have a fire fund that we're responsible for. And we did send that on, and we were sort of curious what would happen. The police pension fund adopted an alternative resolution not in support of that. They wanted more time for it to be studied. They passed that resolution at their November 7th meeting. In spite of that, the state legislature did pass the consolidation, but they did make some last-minute changes, which makes it not quite as beneficial. I don't have all the changes. I was looking over the weekend. It was about a 212-page bill, and a lot of the changes were like underscored and referring back. But some of the highlights I can give you. Naturally, it's like making sausage, as everybody's aware how state law or federal law gets done. But there were a couple of complaints by the police in particular. Right now, as you're aware, we have 5 members on our fund. 2 of them are current officers. One is a retired police officer, and the 2 are residents appointed by the mayor. So it's a 3-2 majority of the police. Under Governor Pritzker's proposal, it was going to be a 4-4 tie, and in the end result, the compromise was the police still wanted jurisdiction on that. So it goes a 5-4. So there's still a 5 police majority versus 4 appointed by the mayor. The main reason for that, what their main goal will be now, because their goal in terms of the investments will be taken away as a result of this consolidation. The main purpose to that is to determine eligibility for disability. If any cop is injured while on duty or whatever, there are hearings that are held on that to determine when it's full disability. So that still gives the police, not saying they do anything inappropriate, but still gives them a little bit higher influence than the other residents that are appointed by the mayor. So that was one area of compromise. The other thing that I was a little disappointed in, back in 2011, there was a Tier 2 retirement fund for anybody hired after 2011, where the benefits were somewhat less generous to try and make the plans more sound. There was some give back on that in a couple things that I've been able to identify. They've increased the benefits for surviving spouses under the Tier 2, and they've also increased the pensionable base. That was sort of fixed at about $108,000, and now they've increased that for cost of living and everything. So it can go up in an unlimited amount. So there is some give back, which there are going to be some savings on this, or hopefully better investment returns, which will encourage the performance to do a little bit better. But on the other hand, they gave away some additional costs, there's going to be some additional costs, obviously, with the higher pension benefits granted to the Tier 2. So those were a couple of the more significant consequences of that. The other thing is, it's not going to happen right away. It's supposed to the transfer of funds is supposed to occur within 30 months, so we have 2.5 years. So it's still quite a bit of time down the road. The one other encouraging aspect is as you know, especially if you've been here for a while, the newer aldermen aren't aware of this, but we have our actuaries that prepare the actuarial report, and then it was presented. I know we've all gone through it at least once this year, and I know Alderman Schauer, one of his big complaints are the actuary for the last 3 years has changed some of the assumptions in the actuarial report, life expectancy and whatnot. And basically, all 650 downstate pension funds all had to hire their own actuary, and all the actuarial assumptions, they could be 650 different boards with different assumptions, completely different assumptions. That's going to be consolidated at the state level too. So at least we'll all be sort of on the same field, so we won't have to worry about 650 different actuaries using their best guess as far as what the amount would be. So I'm happy to hear that part of it. Also, if there are any changes in actuarial assumptions, they will give a 3-year catch-up instead. As you're aware, this year they made some changes in the assumptions, and we got piled in all this year, so it increased our contribution by almost $200,000 this year. That would at least be smoothed over a 3-year period if there are any changes to it. So those are some of the highlights I've seen. I'm sure there's a lot more things that have changed, and once we get a little better idea, once IML or somebody has the patience to go through that 212 pages and summarize it a little bit more, I'll pass a little bit more on, but that's my best reading of it as of right now.
Any questions from Mike? That takes us to standing committee reports. Do any of the aldermen have any reports to submit? Alderman Belzak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next Municipal Services Committee meeting will be a week from today, which is November 25th at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Thank you.
Thank
Alderman
you, Mr. Mayor. The Police Committee met tonight. We have minutes to report to the clerk. And our next meeting will be on December 16th at 6 p.m. across this parking lot in the police training room.
Thank you. Alderman
The Economic Development Committee is meeting this Wednesday, November 20th at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Thank you. Takes us to questions and comments, agenda related. Anyone have any comments in the audience on our agenda tonight? If none, then we move to old business. There being none, we move to the consent agenda, and I'll read each of those items, and it should be explained that item D was moved to new business item B. A, consideration of motion to approve a resolution approving the partial year membership in the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference. Item B, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance levying taxes for the general and special corporate purposes for the fiscal year commencing on the first day of May 2019 and ending on the 30th day of April 2020 for the city of Darien, Illinois. Item C, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance for the levy and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of May 2019 and ending on the 30th day of April 2020 in and for the city of Darien Special Service Area Number 1, known as Terra Hill. Do I have a motion to approve? Alderman Kenny, seconded by Alderwoman Sullivan, and the roll.
Kenny?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Gustafson?
Aye.
Clistic?
Aye.
Vaughn?
Aye.
Belzak?
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
Takes us to new business. Item A under new business, consideration of a motion to accept a proposal dated November 11th, 2019 from Metro Strategies to conduct a communications analysis and develop a resident engagement plan in an amount of $4,200. Motion to approve. Alderwoman Sullivan, second by Alderman Belzak. Questions or comments? Alderman Gustafson.
So this initial 4,200 is really just for this evaluation that they're doing. Now, what's the long-term thoughts of the utilizing Metro going forward? How are we seeing that?
We actually had a discussion with them, and we saw some of their presentation items. They actually would develop a yearly calendar, and by month they would have dates on that for items that they know we have. yearly. They would develop they talked about, they would handle our daily social media, where they would actually put out announcements, but they would actually meet with us to collect that data, and then they would put that out. Let's say, for instance, economic development wanted a brochure that they could hand out when they went from business to business. The members of that committee, they could produce that, but I think that would be an additional cost to their regular services. They would do a quarterly newsletter. So as opposed to Neighbors Magazine, they would do a newsletter similar to the one you see in here for Wilmette,
Okay.
which would be concentrated just on the city of Darien and not the Park District or District 61 or 63. They would also, if we wanted them to advise us on our website design, but I think that's, again, an additional cost.
Well, that's part of their review, but they're not the technical experts on the web design, but they would take a look at it, as they will all of our communication tools, and evaluate those.
Would they handle the direct connect, or is that something we would
That is-
handle
They would handle
conjoint?
all of our social media. In other words, we wouldn't be putting out a direct connect every Friday. They would be putting out something possibly every day of the week.
Okay, but we still, so if something came up where we wanted to push it out to direct connect, something sensitive, emergency, or whatever the case may be, is that something they would do, or is that something we would still do?
That's something they do.
Yeah, they do that as part of their services.
They basically would provide us with an analysis and recommendations, but they'd also give us like a shopping list. So this is what this costs. Like, it's not like it's going to be like all or nothing. We could totally,
A la carte.
from a, exactly, budget and, decide, there's some things that might make sense to still keep in-house. Some things might make sense to outsource. Or, maybe we can't afford to do all of it at once. We roll it out at a different pace. But one thing I was most impressed with them is that they, because I've done a lot of work in the communications industry, they're so specific to, like, municipalities are very different than, like, say, a hospital or a bank or even a nonprofit organization. And that really is a niche they have that really came to light to me during that meeting. That, they really can service that, our needs a lot differently than, say, an organization that maybe works in healthcare.
We talked about the possibility of freeing up Mary Belmonte, who now handles Direct Connect. If they handled those type of notices, then Mary might be able to be assigned some other responsibilities besides the building department.
I mentioned this during the workshop too. One of the critical components is their responses to people who do post on social media. Again, we get the message out, we look to answer questions, but there's a lot more talk on things like Nextdoor and all of those that we just simply don't get back to residents. And I think that's the engagement part we're missing. If somebody has a question, we could do that, we can get back. But even people commenting and different things, it's much more beneficial to reach out to those people also. We do not do that due to time commitment, and some of it gets a little bit tricky in terms of the responses, because we definitely don't want to get in some of these disputes that are on websites, but we certainly want to make sure the information gets out.
What I also like is they would handle any press releases or our public relations. They would be part of that. And again, Jenny was a reporter. She's worked in government. She can appear before a camera and have no problem representing the city of Darien.
But just to be clear then, the 4,200 is really just for their initial evaluation.
Correct.
And then beyond that, these other services you're talking about, they would give us a cost for those.
Correct.
Okay.
We would make
Yes.
that decision as we build our
Okay,
budget.
that's what I was trying to get to.
And we would look at the current, budget we have for
Yeah.
things like our Neighbors Magazine, and we would, kind of start from scratch on all of that, because if we were to bring them on, that doesn't mean there's a cost increase necessarily. It might mean the way we're spending money now will be shifted around a bit.
Will they be able to give us a total then of the whole package?
Oh, yeah, whatever-
And we could pick out,
And we can decide at some
Okay.
point, yes.
okay.
Tom?
Just a quick question. No, I'm in favor, but I guess the question I have is, there's only one company Metro? Has there any other companies that have been evaluated? Usually if we do a bid out for a project, we have 2 or 3, and I only seen one person come to the table. That's my question. I was looking at I was looking for Naperville, Downers Grove, since those are the communities we were looking at.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering who they use or
A lot of the
whatever,
communities,
plans. I'm gonna get this question from residents, like how do they get picked versus anyone else? I'm like, I don't know.
A lot of the communities have staff internally. I reached out to another company who claimed to do similar work. I did not get back the documents I had asked for, but we did have a conversation. But that company, again, part of what they do is sell software for communication, so it's a little different. But I found this company, and I felt they were the best one out there, and the other company I talked to just did not respond. And it's interesting when I talked to a couple of the people and the gentleman on the phone, a lot of the work, when you say, it's municipal government work, they think it's politics work. It's not. It's not elections. We're not doing that. We're trying to engage the community. And again, that's where Metros just stood out from at least the other company I've talked to and the other companies I've researched, because they are municipal engagement and communication groups.
It seems that they have a niche.
They have a niche.
Yes.
So, and usually when you're having those niche products, I mean, Mr. Gombeck will tell you, we know from when we're trying to bid out jobs for municipal services, a lot of times they're bidding stuff out and we can't get somebody to come back. So I can see where this would be, very hard to put out a proposal to have people to come back just based on that niche.
Yeah, I don't know where the 4,200 is. That's probably the lowest cost, highest cost, reasonable cost. I don't know. So I was just looking just roughly, but for now I'm fine with it.
Okay. Question. If no more questions, we have the roll.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Belzak,
Aye.
Clistic,
Aye.
Gustafson,
Aye.
Vaughn,
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
Item B, consideration of a motion to approve a resolution approving an extension of the employee leasing agreement with GovTems USC LLC. Motion to approve. Alderman Belzak, second by Alderman Gustafson. Discussion.
I had a conversation this morning, or actually this evening, email correspondence with Tina Belke, and her concern was, first off, being on the consent agenda, felt that from a transparency standpoint, the residents should hear some discussion, on this. And it was her recollection that a couple of years ago, when we were going to GovTemp, that Brian had brought it to our attention to go this route, and that Brian would be retiring, and a lot of things seemed it was kind of formed around Brian's departure versus staying, and there was a lot of I don't want to say a lot, and I'm quoting from her, that there were things that were molded to benefit Brian, so that when 2 years of this contract was up and over, Brian would be going out, we'd be going another direction, and it's and now he's things change. There's a lot of things that probably happen in personal life and things professionally that that made you decide that you want to stay with GovTemp and stay with the city of Darien. And I think she just wanted to understand. Like she said, there was things, there was monies that were negotiated or were molded for Brian, because this was going to be his retiring and moving on. But now we're going to extend the contracts, and that's what she was asking about.
Let me respond to that, because I'll give you a chronology of how things happened. When I was elected back as mayor back in April, one of the first decisions I made was to formulate my working relationship with Brian Vanna, because I knew my success as mayor was key, was based on how well we worked together. And Brian and I actually had a discussion real early on, and that discussion centered on, did he want to leave and go to California? Because I was part of those discussions too. And what Brian shared with me was that he's taken a look at his life in terms of where he wants to be and what he wants to do. He mentioned that he had a daughter just going to be graduating 8th grade. She had 4 years of high school that she wanted to face, that he would like the opportunity to stay on and be here for the 4 years that she was going to be going to high school, because I think she graduated in May or June this year.
Yeah, started high school now.
At the same time, I thought, I enjoy working with him. We we share a similar vision for the city of Darien. I know how much he cares for the city of Darien. And I wanted to give people like Mary and Eric an opportunity to work with Brian so they too could understand the quality Brian brings to the job. To be quite honest, working with other municipalities and working with other city administrators, I've come to respect Brian even more so because I've seen the way he operates in a very, very practical sense as opposed to some of the things I see from other city administrators. And I don't mean to mention any of them or put any of them down, but I appreciate his clear-cut view of things and how he looks at things. So I talked to Treasurer Corr, and I asked Mike to come in, and Mike came in, and I asked Mike, I said, what would you think if we extended Brian's contract an additional 2 years? And Mike and I discussed it in the office. We discussed it from a financial standpoint, and we discussed it, what would it be if we went out and hired someone new? What might we have to pay, and what would that mean in terms of transition between Brian and someone new? And the conclusion we both came to is this was a good deal to continue Brian's contract, actually to extend Brian's contract. So Brian and I talked. We talked a lot. Brian put together documents. Mike and Brian and I sat down and we talked, and we actually ironed out some things. We clarified some things within that document. And so the document you had before you is really taken probably a couple months from our initial discussions to where it is today, what's before you. Now, some people might say, why wouldn't you just open this up and open up a new contract and redevelop this? Well, first of all, I could go to GovTems and say, let's renegotiate this, and GovTems may say, well, this is what we told you Brian would make a year and a half ago, but this is what we would want to charge you now for Brian's services. So rather than avoid that, I felt Brian was the best individual to deal with because Brian is an agent of GovTems and could negotiate the contract on his own. So we did make modifications to it. We added reimbursement for his unused sick days. We decided with Mike's concurrence that we would reimburse one half of that. We decided to let him use the city vehicle, which he will not use a lot, but he'll get a chance to use the city vehicle. And we also changed any type of termination agreement. In the past, we would have paid Brian $2,600 per month for any remainder of his contract still open, whereas in this case now, if we terminated Brian, it would be 3 months. So this was all initiated by me. I enjoy working with this man. I think he does a fine job for the city. I don't know if any of you who've come to me that have said anything different, where you felt that he didn't do the fine job that he does. I think it's to our advantage as a city to have him here. And usually the city administrator's term runs concurrently with the mayor's 4-year term. So in my mind, extending the contract was a better proposition than renegotiating a whole new contract. And that's really why this is before you tonight.
The only other, and I agree and I concur. Okay, I'm not trying to.
Right.
I had somebody ask a question. I'm like, fine, we'll get it out here. We'll discuss it. It's great that you're there. I did some research today. I mean, Dave Feldman over in Downers Grove, he's making $195,000 a year. We're at $177,000.
That's in salary.
But
You got to add
right,
a lot of benefits.
Right, benefits too. So that's great. I mean, you go out and you look. I mean, Glenview, I think, is 49,000 residents, and it's $314,000 as their manager.
Don't tell me that.
So you do. I did my homework today, and I'm like, that's the only reason I'm bringing out. The only other thing that that Tina had brought up is, and I said, from an exit strategy standpoint, not that you're we're looking maybe 4 years out, but what happens if something happens, heaven forbid, accident or whatever the case may be, and, you have to leave in a year and a half. What's our progression? What's our transition? Do we have people within the city that could that can step into those roles. A lot of these municipalities do have assistant directors that are, costly, and we don't. And I believe that, Gov Temps probably we're in a good position that if that something did go with it, between what we have with our new city planner and with Lisa Clem and Gov Temp, I think we'd have a way of having that transition built in. So I believe we're in a really good spot.
Well, and I agree with you there. I mean, let's say Brian decides 2 years from now he wants to go to California with the family. We have got the availability of Gov Temps. We also have an individual who's worked for the city at that point almost 20 years, who knows the city well and knows the needs of the city, who could help us in that transition in terms of assisting us getting someone on either an interim basis or a permanent basis. When we first looked at replacing Steve Manning, we were looking possibly for an interim at that point. But what we did is we found Joe. Was it Hennefren? We found Joe, and Joe was so impressive in terms of his background that we offered him the full-time job, because we felt at this point we don't need an interim. This was the person that we wanted. We might find ourselves in a similar position to that if he ever does decide that he wants to leave. So I think you're right, Joe. I think we are in a good position. We have an experienced city administrator who knows us well. He works well not only with the mayor, but he works well with the council. And Brian and I, we sit and talk almost every day that I'm here. We sit down and we talk. And we talk a lot about our vision for the city, where we want the city to go. He's not afraid to tell me, you're off base on this. We're not afraid to disagree. And I think if any of you went in to talk to him and shared, and I know you go in and you do talk to him, and I know Eric does as well, as does Mary. And I would invite all of you to do that, because I know he will tell you the truth.
Not at the same time.
Yeah, not at the same time, but he'll tell you and he'll fill you in on his he'll give you his input, and you may disagree with him, but at least you'll disagree with him in a respectful manner, and I appreciate that.
Just to add, I mean, I usually like to put things in its simplest terms, not make it confusing. And when I heard Tina had emailed Alderman Kenny, I called him and he sent me the email and I took a look at it. And, again, I would debate the things. It just, to me, wasn't accurate in terms of where we ended up. But simply put, the cover memo in the packet lays out really the cost to the city to have a city administrator versus how the city does it now, versus how the other option was, whether I was the full-time employee or somebody else is a full-time employee, and those other scenarios, are more money. And not only did I contemplate the possibility of relocating to California, because my two older my two older adults now live in California, but I contemplated that, thought that was a possibility. But there was another reason I also had talked to the council about I am sensitive about salaries in the public sector, and this was certainly a way that it would reduce the compensation that the city pays the city administrator, and that was one of the other items. But again, to me, it's a simple item. Here's the benefits, and here's what the city's paying versus other options. And I've told all of you here, I'm very fortunate to work here. I get up in the morning. I don't kick the door on the way out saying, I have to go to work again. This for me has been a great home. City administrators don't always get the opportunity to stay in a community that long and work with, I don't know, I can't even count how many elected officials now. I've worked for 3 mayors, a great staff that, again, if anybody comes around the office, Dan and I are similar. We don't always agree, but we certainly get things done, push it forward. The chief has been a great leader in the police department and a great educator and has done so many good things here. So I'm pretty fortunate. So again, I was happy to have this on the agenda tonight and pleased. So when I'm hearing, I might leave for whatever illness or all these other things, it's a little bit of a downer, but this should be a very good thing.
But it's a realistic conversation. It's a realistic thing to think about.
Exactly. And,
right.
In a smaller community where we don't have a lot of positions and we've scaled back, a transition is a friendly transition. Come time when there's a time for retirement, I wouldn't leave the city hanging. There'd be a long transition. Now, if something happened where I fell ill or something, that's a different scenario. But there are companies like GovTemp, who's, again, they're the premier company here for that many retired city managers would work for. that would be a normal transition in a situation that was, not contemplated.
I think the thing that needs to be mentioned is Brian did not need to do this. He could have continued working for the city as a City of Darien employee, getting his benefits, getting his annual raises on a year-to-year basis until he maxed out on his pension. He chose this path. Now, just to let the public know, because we're being transparent, if Brian Vanna had continued to work as an employee of the City of Darien, it would have been the 3-year cost would have been $760,000. That includes benefits. I don't mean to say that's salary. That's including benefits. The cost to the city from GovTemps over that same 3 years is $532,000. So we are in effect saving $227,000 over that period of time. And again, this was a choice he made. He could have continued as an employee of the city, and he chose this path because at that point he was possibly looking at moving to California. But again, that changed. He and I have had these discussions. He knows my feelings in terms of wanting him to continue working with me. And so that's why you're looking at this tonight. Now, Mike, you said you want to add something?
Yeah, just a couple of quick comments, particularly for the newer aldermen here. Back when this was originally proposed, former Alderman Belke actually raised the issue, well, how much would a new person cost? What would it cost us to get somebody to replace Brian? Does this make economic sense? And as you probably recall, we did a study and we did go out and survey the surrounding communities to find out what it would cost us. So it's not like these numbers that Brian's presenting are way off the board. In fact, I believe there's somebody that was hired currently or recently, did you say for Westmont or Willowbrook?
Willowbrook.
And so we know these savings are legitimate. And again, former Alderman Belke was insistent at the time. And we did our due diligence. There are savings, and these savings, the nice thing about adding 2 years to this contract, it continues those savings going forward because it essentially freezes the amount at where it is. And again, as Alderman indicated, he wanted to give everybody a chance to work with the new alderman. And the reason it was on the consent agenda is, at goal setting, everybody was concerned about, hey, what are we going to do for a lot of our high-end administrative people, and we would like to keep them here. And we had it at the Administrative Finance Committee meeting, and it was very unanimous. And again, the unanimous votes typically go on the consent agenda, so it wasn't that we were trying to shortcut anything here from Alderman Belke's perspective. And I know she made some comments in the email as far as, well, what about this amount and that amount? Well, originally when we were negotiating it, we were going into a lot of little specific amounts as far as what Brian's getting and what he's not. And we just said, hey, we don't want to deal with all the little Mickey Mouse stuff. This is the amount, the $177,600. It's all inclusive, all in, and there's nothing else to be dealt with, which simplified the process.
See, and the other thing to understand, Joe, is, and you may remember this, Tina.
Guys, don't shoot the messenger. I have a constituent you wanted to hear, not and that's what I'm doing here.
But I wanted to explain this for the public. You want transparency. Tina was part of all the discussions up to a point, and then Tina left the council, and we made the new appointment of the new alderperson, and they came in, and the final package was different than what Tina had been part of in terms of the discussion. And so Tina had an idea that possibly we were paying Brian's health insurance or part of his health insurance. Brian is paying his own health insurance. So those are the things that were discussed but weren't in the final document. Tom?
Thanks, Mayor. Just for clarification, on item 3, it says 50 days leave time available. Is that for the next 2-3 years? Or is that like 10 weeks per year? I guess I don't understand.
Yeah, the leave works exactly as it does now. And there's 50 days of leave time in there, so that's all leave time, sick time, funeral time, vacation time, personal days, whatever may come up. It's those days typically for the year that runs from the contract year that's stipulated in there.
So is that use it or lose it, or do you get paid out? Because like at my company, if I don't use my 2 weeks vacation, I lose it, or how does that detail work?
The change here is I can sell back up to half of those days.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example of this year, because the contract actually went a little longer because it ran till, I think, it was June. I had, by April, there was 10 days I didn't use, but I knew I was having hip surgery.
Yeah.
And I was able to use those, so it's not an unlimited carryover. And it's similar to what we had, really, most employees have here in terms of the sellback.
Okay.
For unused sick leave. So that's the only, of the contract, that's the only challenging part, because, come March, if all of a sudden I didn't use 15 leave days,
I think
and
more
I wasn't
vacation.
sick, well, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It just depends. I love my vacations as well as anybody, but again, being a smaller staff, we don't always get all the days, but
That contract, Tom, it's the same contract. If you read the contract, our contract with GovTemps was for 1,600 hours.
Okay.
It was really 2,080 if you had a 40-hour work week in the 52 weeks. So the contract is for 1,600, so that's really what makes up those other 50 days.
Okay, yeah, I can just see a residency day like Tom. How's that? It's like 10 weeks, right?
It's
But it's
exactly the
divided
same as
out
the old
and
one,
this and
with
that.
the only difference being with the potential sellback for 50% of the unused.
Okay.
Any other questions? Alderman Belzak.
Not a question, it's a comment. I think it's a great deal for the city fiscally, and I've always thought that way. I guess my only question is, why are we doing it a year and 3 months before the contract ends? I mean, it seems like way in advance. Again, not necessarily against that, but I'm just curious as to, this doesn't go into effect till April 1 of 2021. And then I just wanted a little clarification on the termination agreement. Currently, if we terminated the agreement right now, it would be $26.66 per month remaining on the first 3 years, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So now, as of, that still stays in effect until April 1 of 2021, correct?
no, that basically
Or is
that
it
goes
changed?
away.
It's retroactive.
Okay.
That part just goes away.
So
and-
effective immediately,
Yeah, and all I
if
asked,
you were to be terminated, you would have to get 90 days notice? Is that, or are you getting 90 days pay?
no, just notice.
90 days notice.
That's what I talked to the mayor about. If the council ever did want to make a change, that's all I asked for is,
No, and that's what I thought it
Yes.
was. I just wanted to be clear
so-
and that's effective immediately.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing it now, Tom, is, to be quite honest, I wanted to make sure that I had a city administrator for the entire 4-year period. I did provide some leeway there for Mary and Eric to learn to work with Brian, so they'd have and I probably could have gone longer, but I thought, why not now? Why not have this discussion now? And I think Mary and Eric both have spent enough time with Brian to understand who he is, and the rest of you have all worked with him for a longer period of time.
No, like I said, I agree. We save money based on having to go out and have a different administrator, or by not having this agreement and paying what Brian was making. And even with the numbers we had in there, it would be more than what it was, assuming he received raises at the same rate that he had previously. I mean, the last number, what was it, 259 in total compensation. I mean, that's going up every year.
Right.
So in years 4 and 5, we're actually saving more money per year. So it is a good deal. I was just curious as to why we're doing it now.
Yeah, also on the timing of that, there was, originally it went past the term of Mayor Weaver's term, just a couple of months, so the new mayor would come in, and then it had an automatic renewal. But I think if the timing was different, I would imagine the mayor and I would have had that talk at that point and could have made it the full 4 years, but it happened a little bit later, so it made sense for the term of the mayor.
Any other questions? I think we have a motion and a second.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
We have the roll.
Belzak.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Clistic.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
Motion is approved. It takes us to questions, comments, and announcements of a general nature. Do any of the aldermen have an announcement? Mary?
Just a reminder, everyone received an invitation for the 50th birthday party gala. on December 13th. All the aldermen and city folks did. Friday, December 13th at Carriage Greens Country Club. The entire community is invited to partake in this event. You can go to the city website to get more information, but the cost is $40 per person, and they are trying to get all the registrations in by December 4th. And you can also go online and register with the Darien Chamber of Commerce, darienchamber.com. And I think it'll be a great night celebrating our city. All the who's who of Darien will be there, right?
Mhm.
And we have who's who. I would like to, let's all think we are somebody, right? We're on TV.
It's the surgery on the foot, Mark.
Yeah. And then I'm probably the city liaison to the Citizen of the Year Committee, which has started their work and has started promoting the application process. It's on the city website. It's been in the Direct Connect. I highly encourage our community to apply to recommend. It is due by Monday, January 6th, but we have, if anyone here or anyone in the community would like to see the Hall of Fame outside the council chambers, we've got some amazing people who have been given that designation, and we'd like to continue to the tradition. So I encourage people to recommend individuals to become Citizen of the Year. The criteria and all that needs to be done is on the city website.
Anybody have anything else? If not, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Alderman Kenny, seconded by Alderman Vaughn. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned, 8:39.
You guys don't go away. Can you give, Tom, just give me right back. We didn't sign it, we didn't sign a minute.
Oh, you're welcome.
Tom, you got-